All right, let's dive right in. So you've plugged a scanner into your Ford, maybe a Lincoln or a Mercury, and boom, the code P1000 pops up. I bet your first thought was something like, oh great, what now? Well, you can take a deep breath because today we are going to completely demystify this super common and honestly really misunderstood code. So you're staring at this on your scanner, and you're probably wondering what it means for your car and, for your wallet. You've definitely come to the right place because the answer is almost certainly not what you're thinking. Okay, first things first, just relax. Seriously, this is the single most important thing to know about the P1000 code. Unlike pretty much every other code that lights up your dashboard, this one is not signaling some kind of catastrophe. It is not a fault. So, if it's not a problem, what in the world is it? Well, think of it like a progress report from your car's main computer. It's just telling you something really specific about its own internal checkup process. Here's the official, kind of nerdy definition. All this really means is that your car's computer hasn't finished all of its required self-checks yet. These checks are called monitors, and they're run by what's called the Powertrain Control Module, or PCM. These monitors test, well, pretty much everything, from the oxygen sensors to the catalytic converter. Yeah, this slide really lays it out perfectly. A typical check engine code? That's a red flag. It's your car yelling, hey, something's wrong over here. But the P1000 code? That's just an informational note. It's your car saying, just a sec, I'm still running my diagnostics. Okay, so if the car is fine, why do we even care about this code? Well, here's the kicker. This is why. When you go for an emissions test or a smog check, the station needs to see that your car's computer has finished its self-checks and given everything the green light. With the P1000 active, those tests just aren't done yet, so you're almost guaranteed to fail the inspection. All right, so that brings up a good question. Why would your car's computer need to rerun all its tests in the first place? Well, it all comes down to its memory being wiped clean. Let's look at the most common reasons this happens. And here are the usual suspects. By far, the number one reason is that the battery was recently disconnected or replaced. When that computer loses power, it loses its short-term memory, just like unplugging an old clock radio. Same thing happens if you clear other codes with a scan tool, or if the dealer does a software update. It forces a full system reset. Now, let's get to the good part, how to get rid of it. And you're gonna like this. This isn't about buying a new part or paying a mechanic a ton of money. The solution is actually simple, and it just involves you driving your car. But yeah, in a very specific way. Now, this is absolutely crucial. Don't even bother trying to plug in your code reader and hit erase. It won't work. The P1000 is a status report, right? You can't erase a status report until the status actually changes. The car's own computer has to be the one to clear the code once it's satisfied that all the checks are done. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The drive cycle is the key to everything. It's a special sequence of driving, different speeds, idling, and for specific amounts of time that basically forces the computer to run all of its self-tests in a single trip. So how do you actually do this thing? Don't worry, we're going to walk through the standard Ford drive cycle right now. Think of this as your roadmap to getting those system monitors ready to go. But first, a quick but really important heads up. While this procedure works for most Fords, it can be a little different depending on the exact model and year. A quick Google search for, say, 2015 F-150 drive cycle is always a smart move, just to be safe. Okay, before you even turn the key, there are two things that are absolutely critical. First, your fuel tank has to be between 1/4 and 3/4 full. This is non-negotiable for the evaporative system test to run properly. Second, you have to start with a cold engine. That means the car needs to have been sitting for several hours, ideally overnight. All right, you ready? Part 1. Start the engine and just let it idle for 15 seconds. Then, accelerate smoothly up to 40 miles per hour and just hold that speed for 3 minutes. After that, find a safe place to pull over, come to a complete stop, and let the car idle, in drive, for 4 full minutes. Now for part 2, the highway part. Get back on the road and accelerate smoothly up to highway speed, say around 55 miles per hour. You need to hold a steady speed somewhere between 40 and 60 for a solid 15 minutes. Seriously, cruise control is your best friend here. Finally, ease off the gas, slow down smoothly to a stop, idle for 30 more seconds, and then you can shut the engine off. That's it. The cycle's complete. Now, for most people, that drive cycle is going to do the trick. But what if? What if you've tried it a couple of times or you've just been driving around for a week and that pesky P1000 is still there? Let's talk about what that might mean. If you find yourself in this boat, it's a sign that the P1000 code itself isn't really the problem anymore. It's now become a symptom, a clue, pointing you toward a different hidden issue. See, a stubborn P1000 means that one of those specific self-tests, one of those monitors, is failing to complete its run. The computer keeps trying over and over, but something is stopping it from getting the result it needs. This usually means there's another problem that just hasn't triggered its own fault code yet.
So what do? Well, it's time to scan for other codes, even if the check engine light isn't on. Often, you'll find a pending code, and a lot of the time, it's related to the evap system. You see, a faulty sensor or some other component can stop a readiness monitor dead in its tracks, which then keeps that P1000 from ever clearing.
So let's wrap this all up with a big takeaway. The next time you see a P1000 code, don't think problem. Instead, I want you to think of it as your car just talking to you, saying, hey, hang on a second, I'm just running my system checks. I'll be done in a bit. And that's really what it all comes down to, isn't it? These codes aren't just annoyances, they're a language. It's your car's way of telling you what's going on inside. The P1000 is just one part of that conversation. So the real question is, are you listening?